episode 83 of Beyond the Code. And this week, I'm joined by Alex Scheer, the CEO and founder of zkMe, a very, very cool company that's using zero-knowledge proofs, which we're going to talk about more in this episode, to verify the identities of various individuals on-chain. It's super cool, super relevant. Let's dive in. Also, this week, we're in Abu Dhabi for Finance Week. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on here. There's Bitcoin Mina, there's Solana Breakpoint, and there's our very own event, Tokenize UAE, on Wednesday. If you're here in Abu Dhabi, make sure to come and visit. We will share the Luma registration link together with the episode. Looking forward to seeing you all. Have a great week. Welcome to Beyond the Code, the podcast where industry experts and brilliant legal minds discuss the impact of new emerging technologies. I'm your host, Yitzy, a lawyer and tech enthusiast. Join us as we explore the legal, regulatory, and ethical issues surrounding AI, blockchain, and more. Get ready to go beyond the code and stay ahead of the game. Alex, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Yitzy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for rescheduling.
After a little bit of technical issues and a little bit of scheduling issues, we're finally here in the same place. Long time coming. We met in Hong Kong in February. We said we're going to set this up right away, and I guess right away is 10 months later. So
classic.
Finally have you here on the pod. Very excited. And I, as a general rule, don't like to introduce other people, so I'll let you introduce yourself. But I do want to say that I love what you're building at zkMe, and we're going to get a little bit into the weeds of you, and also into the weeds of what you're building, and very excited about it. So, without further ado, David Alexander Scheer, who also goes by just Alex. Welcome to Beyond the Code. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Yitzy. I'm David Alexander Scheer. I'm the founder of zkMe. We're a privacy first or private identity protocol. I started this company 3 years ago now. It's crazy how time flies. With the specific intent of protecting DeFi and protecting the ethos of Web3. 3 years ago, the European Commission launched a new law called MiCA. And on the second page of the law, it actually says, in recital 12, any non-sufficiently decentralized protocol will be treated the same as any centralized solution. And at that moment, I already knew if we want this to become if we want this to become truly mass adopted, we will need an identity primitive that is as decentralized as the financial product that we offer. And it's been 3 years, wild ride, but I still love it. I'm still fully behind it.
I should hope so. So tell me a little bit about the wild ride. Before we get into the wild ride, let's just for those who are not familiar, what zkMe does is basically they use zero-knowledge proofs, which are cryptographic protocols that allow one party to prove to another party, right? One's called the prover, the other one's called the verifier. And I'm not a technical guy, so I guess Alex, you can correct me if I'm not, if I'm oversimplifying this or not simplifying it enough. But the protocol basically allows one party to prove to another party that a statement is true without revealing any information beyond the validity of the statement itself.
Yeah, correct.
So the main use case, I think, is well, I guess we'll get into the use cases in a moment, but you guys use these zero-knowledge proofs to verify the identity of different individuals.
Correct, yeah. So, you hit to the essence of the technology. Maybe first things first, I truly believe that zero-knowledge proofs are a tech that is maybe even more fundamental and even more valuable than the distributed ledger itself. There's so many things that you could do with zero-knowledge proofs, also in AI, that we'll see, especially maybe Google. I think out of all of the big tech, Google seems to be the most bullish on zero-knowledge proofs. They've integrated zero-knowledge proofs within their Google Wallet. Overall, a really powerful technology. And
in
what
the
it
back
does,
end, you're saying?
Sorry?
in the back end? Like Google's using zero knowledge proofs in the back end?
Yeah. Like Google is the first hyperscaler to use zero knowledge proofs within their identity stack, mostly to protect their own like
Yeah,
data.
sure.
But yeah, it's a really powerful tech that the way I usually explain it is it allows you to make sure that computation was done as intended without having to do the computation yourself again. So, for example, you could prove that someone calculated a roll-up transaction the way it was done and then settle it on Ethereum. That's how layer 2s work. You can like Google prove like only partial contents of an identity and then do selective disclosure. That's what they do within Google Wallet. And then
Like sharding?
yeah, similar. So they prove contents within a federated identity. So they prove, for example, that a user has a Google account and then certain information within the Google account without allowing external parties to actually like scrape the Google identity.
See who that belongs to.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do something similar, but what we do at zkMe's is we actually allow the user to prove that they own an already signed credential. So we do not create new credentials. We're not an IDV provider in that sense, like an identity verifier. We act more as a bridge. So we say, we can prove that you own a biometric passport that has been signed by a government, or we can prove that you own an account that has been signed by a bank. We can prove that you have a credit score. We can prove that you paid taxes. Like all of these things that somehow an already trusted entity like the government or a large financial institution has put into their own cryptography, we can take and wrap into a zero knowledge proof and then make reusable, or like we tokenize that information. So in the end, the end effect is that we build truly self-sovereign identity where you own your own statements and then you can monetize them as you see fit.
I think like the strongest use case, at least like from what I've seen, is you have a lot of protocols that have regulatory requirements, like AML, KYC requirements to collect certain data or verify certain information regarding their end users. And because of the nature of DeFi products, because of the nature of decentralization generally, people don't necessarily want to provide that information.
Yep.
And it acts as like a deterrent to, the mass onboarding that people are looking to achieve within the industry. When you start asking for KYC, people are like, screw it, I'm going to go somewhere else. And so on one hand, like we want these protocols to be able to thrive. On the other hand, we also want them to be able to uphold their regulatory requirements. And so we've very often suggested zkMe as like a middle ground where you say, okay, like you're not going to ask for KYC, but you will use ZK zero knowledge proofs through a platform like zkMe to verify that this person is who they say they are, or that they're from, that they're not from a sanctioned country, or it adds like another level of integrity without having to go full KYC. Is that something that you guys, is that like the most widely used use case? And I would love to know, like from your perspective, if you've had any like run-ins with regulators who have said this is insufficient or it is sufficient, and like whether you guys are taking steps in that direction.
Yeah, super interesting questions. So maybe let me start with the first one. Yeah, like by far, like 90+% of our customer base is currently consuming it or consuming self-sovereign credentials for the purpose of compliance. So KYC, AML, but also some KYB verifications, so retail and business verifications. Mostly, as you mentioned previously, it's like internal risk management. Like I think most DeFi protocols are not really worried about enforcement. Like enforcement actions are relatively sparse, even though they are rising and they're rising quickly. It's more like a risk reward kind of thing. To give you like a recent example, we had a big chain foundation that did their token airdrop through our solution. And approximately 5% of all token recipients even after they have already gone through anti-SIBO checks, are would have been disqualified in a centralized setting. So either they're like children under 16 that are trying to interact with a financial product, or they're actively sanctioned, like either from a sanctioned jurisdiction or sanctioned individuals, or they are politically exposed. Like there's many different reasons why the risk of sending tokens to a wallet, even though it's anonymous, might be too much of a risk for many DeFi protocols to take. So yeah, even though we provide like a lot of different credentials, the KYC credential is by far the most used one. And then
And
regarding
is
your
this
second
something
question,
that's like, is it like better than nothing? Like, so it's like, okay, either we're going to have no controls in place or we'll use ZK proofs, or is it actually like, does it meet the required compliance ref?
it does. So we offer 9 different credentials at the moment, and if you
Mm-hmm.
use 3 of those, you actually fulfill the FATF requirements for KYC. So on the
Okay.
highest level, right? Like there's 2 things you need to do. One is you need to check for a couple of criteria before you provide a service. Mostly,
Mm-hmm.
like you must have collected a name, you must have collected a citizenship, you must have collected like a background check. So these kind of things are the minimum. And then you need to have some form of recoverability. So in our solution, the user stays anonymous until like a regulator comes in and says like, I have sufficient proof to recover the identity of a user. So it does actually fulfill the regulatory requirements if so wished by the protocol.
Okay. So why isn't everybody using it?
Good question. And that was actually like the second thing. Like if you ask me, like I think zero knowledge proof KYC is Pareto optimal to an existing KYC, because everything an existing KYC solution can do, like a ZK based self-sovereign solution can also do. I think it's mostly just the inertia of the prototypical compliance officer. Like if you go to bigger institutions and you talk to them, they would tell you, I've done compliance in the same way for the last 40 years. So why would I change? And that's actually a much bigger hurdle than the regulator itself. Like whenever you approach a regulator, they would say like, interesting approach. I want to see it in action. Like I actually encourage protocols to use it. And it's more on the protocol side to be like risk averse and say like, I've never done something like this. Why would I change now? And
Right. So you're
scarily
probably
enough,
getting
yeah,
more. So you're
just
probably getting
one.
more of those like those companies that don't have compliance officers or are typically like more risk leaning, and they're like, oh, you know what, well, right now we're like super exposed, let's just add this layer and then we'll be less exposed, as opposed to those ones with like the traditional compliance officers who are looking to onboard more users.
Yeah, that's correct. So like 2.5 years ago, we made the specific choice to offer this only within the Web3 space, to grow within the niche.
Hmm.
Like sales cycles are shorter, and like convincing people that have no compliance background is obviously easier than someone that has done compliance for 40 years. But recently, like as of for the last like 3-4 months, we've actually started to approach traditional fintech as well with increasing success. So the more stablecoin exposure financial institutions have, the more wallet exposure they have. The more interest they also get into decentralized identity.
So like, are you guys doing work vis-a-vis compliance officers to try and like change their perception of ZK proofs? Like,
Uh,
is that your main target market? Trying to just change the narrative?
I think we're too small, and I think in general, you cannot fight like something that is so ingrained. Our strategy is to grow with the use cases. So we do see more and more financial institutions, even like traditional payment providers, that are starting to provide payments in stablecoins. But then the question very, very quickly comes up, like, how do you actually ensure compliance on a hot wallet? Like it's not as trivial as people think. Like
Sure.
some people might say, okay, you just create a walled garden, but as soon as you have a self-sovereign wallet, it's trivial for someone to just hand it over to someone else, and then suddenly it's like laundered money, right? Like if I control the wallet and tomorrow someone else controls the wallet, it's by definition it has been laundered. And that's where solutions like ours would come in, where we actually permanently mark a wallet as belonging to an identity.
And then every time that there's a transaction, that same identity needs to verify with one of the proofs or multiple proofs to ensure that it's still the same identity holder.
Yeah, it's not every transaction. Like it happens in random
So,
or
mhm.
in random intervals where the user is asked to prove ownership of the identity again. But yeah, that's the idea. So there are several jurisdictions around the world, including in Hong Kong, that is actually mandating um, KYC compliance also on secondary trades of stablecoins. And I'm absolutely convinced that these secondaries are impossible to be compliant with, if not with a decentralized identity.
Wow. Okay. Um, I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
I think we're going to see a lot more uh, broader adoption of zk proofs generally,
Yep.
and I would like to see you guys become a bigger fish in the sea. What are you working on now? Building out more features or acquiring greater market shares? Like what are your goals for 2026?
Yeah, it's crazy that we're already talking about 2026, right? Like,
That's why it took me a second. I was like 2020. Yeah.
no, yeah. So we're trying to grow both horizontally and vertically. So we just recently, as of Hong Kong FinTech Week, which was like 2-3 weeks ago, started to also offer open banking services based on zero knowledge. So the ability
Hmm.
to prove, as I mentioned previously, that a user owns a certain amount of fiat on their bank account. That's one of the use cases we use for example, like buy now, pay later, or under collateralized lending services. So that's more of a horizontal growth, and within vertical growth, yeah, like we're just building up sales capacities, trying to penetrate the market. Um, for the longest time, decentralized identity and decentralized compliance was a niche of a niche of a niche, like almost non-existent of a market. But within the last 3-4 months, it's really been exploding. And we will try to capitalize on this sudden demand.
All right. So we talked a little bit about zkMe. Tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how did you fall into building this product, zero knowledge proofs generally?
Yeah, it's not a very straightforward vita, I would say. So um, I think I'm very German in the sense that I started my career in mechanical engineering, like mechanical engineering plus statistics. That is my background. Um, I had a very small, short stint in the aerospace industry. So I worked on fighter jets at Airbus for a
Cool.
year. Didn't really like the scene. Didn't really like military tech. So I transitioned from military tech to automotive. I think that's like the
Just out of curiosity, like what didn't you like? Because my father-in-law also like spent some time as like a aeronautical engineer, and he like what he hated was like his whole life was one very small part of a plane,
yes.
and then like he very rarely saw the big picture, and he was like immensely frustrated by that.
I think that's one very big reason. Like I was like 18, just out of high school, just getting started, and I was immediately compartmentalized into only handling like hydraulics of one very specific plane.
Right.
So like I know that one wheel barrow and like that one
So
thing
well.
so well, but I don't know anything else of the plane. And I think that was one big reason. The other big reason is just there's a certain culture in military tech that you just need to be part of, and I just didn't see myself in that. And then someone I really admired a lot told me the best way to learn is to go into consulting, and that's what I did. Like I went into automotive supply chain consulting,
Hmm.
did that for almost a decade. Saw pretty much everything, like every every place around the world that has a car factory is where I was based out of for a couple of months at least. And then within the supply chain, I very quickly specialized in software, like supply chain software,
Hmm.
that applied a lot of statistical models, like optimization of stochastic supplies, these kind of things. Was moved to Shanghai, led a software team there, and then very quickly realized there's a lot of potential in zero knowledge proofs. Like when I studied statistics, zero knowledge proofs was one of the things that we got taught, but it was a very theoretical thing. Like compute and algorithms were just not there yet to really make them like practical for everyday use.
Hmm.
um, did a research within the automotive industry on the application of zero knowledge proofs. And then before I was able to implement this, COVID hit. And then during COVID, German in Shanghai plus COVID, I just decided if I don't quit now, this is probably like the last chance I have to do my own thing. And then it just happened that when I was playing with this idea, the European Commission came up with MiCA, with the first draft of MiCA. And I'm very in tune with the European Commission. I've been following laws that come out there for a very long time, mostly because of my work. And I just saw the opportunity and said, like, yeah, let's just jump on it. Like, let's try it. And yeah, it turned out to be the right time, the right topic.
So you went like directly from automobile industry to starting zkMe?
Pretty much, yeah. I had a little bit of a time in between, like just to get all my ducks in a row. I did a little bit of like consulting work for some crypto projects. I was already in crypto as a retail trader and was relatively
Okay.
well connected. But I never really worked in the Web3 industry. Yeah, it was a jump from like one of the most traditional industries to one of the most
Seriously.
non-traditional industries. Yeah.
It's also funny that like you started originally researching zk proofs like as part of the automobile supply chain.
Yes.
Like it was like you took a very non-conservative application, and then went like hardcore blockchain, like which I guess is like the most obvious use of zk proofs.
Yeah. And then when I got started, I think that's also part of the story. I got frustrated that everyone was talking about zero knowledge proofs as a way to increase efficiency, right?
Hmm.
Like 3 years ago, it was like everyone was talking about zero knowledge rollups, and that's the future.
Still, they still are.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I was always very skeptical about the use of that tech for this kind of purpose
Hmm.
because it was never intended as a way to increase efficiency. Like by definition, zero knowledge proofs are very inefficient. So it always seemed like some kind of a crux. But yeah, it seems to work. So I'm happy that zero knowledge and privacy is coming back, not for performance issues, but for actual privacy and for compliance reasons.
Very cool. And your team, like where are you guys based out of?
So I've decided to start a company out of like the Cayman Islands plus Hong Kong. So we're mostly Hong Kong based at the moment. But yeah, hopefully next year we'll be able to open a couple of satellite offices and start selling
Okay.
all around the world. Yeah.
Very cool. Um, what are your thoughts generally on the industry? Like, I know you're laser focused, like on ZK proofs and the compliance avenue, but since you came at it from like a retail perspective, like, what are your thoughts generally on like where the market might be going and what other kind of like exciting technologies we may see?
It's a very interesting question. So one of my investors very early on told me like an investment in zkMe is actually a anti-cyclical investment. Like zkMe will do well when regulators really
Regardless,
enforce,
yeah.
yeah, and and like the nature of Web3 changes, which we're seeing a little bit of that. Like I think
Hmm.
crypto is becoming more institutionalized and more regulator friendly, and we also see more regulators actually like actively engage with the tech. Um, what I see as most interesting, like besides the noise, right? There's so much noise, and
Hmm.
it's really difficult for someone that is not in it 24/7 to differentiate what is a real use case and what is just a hype use case that no one's ever going to use. I'm actually mostly interested in the machine economy, and things like IoT payments or agent payments. There's a lot of potential there. And I've recently wrote a white paper that I'm hoping to release very soon on AI agent identity and how it can like tap into the whole agentic economy. Because I think that's where crypto will, or like Web3 in general, will have a second chance to really shine outside of like speculation.
You mentioned that zkMe's is like anti-cyclical, so which reminds me that I didn't actually ask you, like, what's your economic model? Like, how do you guys make money?
It's
Is it
very
like a SaaS based,
yes, yes.
or is it like a percentage of transactions?
It's B2B SaaS. So at the moment we have a model in which every verification incurs a verification fee plus like a small storage fee in order to store the zero knowledge proof on decentralized storage, and that's it. Like typically, like that's also one of our value propositions is that we are able to undercut a centralized identity solution by like a factor of 2 or 3. So that's like one of the ways we also enter the market.
Okay, and I know you guys are like one of the first to be doing zero knowledge proofs for identity verification purposes, but I know there are others as well. And you did mention that you view yourselves as like a small fish. So like,
Yeah.
how do you how is your product different from those of your competitors? Just giving you the floor here, the opportunity to upsell a little bit, and again, like touching on like the new features that you guys are looking to roll out. How will you continue to distinguish yourselves?
Yeah, thanks, Yitzy. So I think one of the main value propositions when customers come to us is actually that we're one of the few. Like I can only think of one other provider to actually be compliant. Like there are many identity solutions that use zero knowledge proofs, but they cannot be used for a compliant use case. So they can
Why is
only
that?
mostly for the recoverability. So if the regulator, for example, goes to one of those solutions that only generate a zero knowledge proof and nothing else, and there's actual proof that the user that the DeFi protocol, for example, let in was involved in some malicious activity, then the DeFi protocol remains fully liable for allowing that user to come in.
And in your case?
In our case, there is a theoretical way to recover the identity of the user. So I didn't go into that, but you can go to docs.zk.me to read about it. There is a multi-signature wallet that has the
Hmm.
ability to recover the identity of a user if the user agreed to onboard onto that service provider.
Oh, cool.
Um,
In other words, they have to agree in advance, or in the
correct.
event of recovery, like the user needs to sign on together.
No, they have to agree in advance. So on zkMe, there's different use cases. There are some use cases where you stay fully anonymous, like there is no possibility to ever recover your identity. And then there are other use cases where you are pseudonymous. So the difference between anonymous and pseudonymous is that for pseudonymous, there is a ability to recover, and the ability to recover is not unilateral. So it requires like several parties to come together and agree that sufficient legal reason for recovery is there.
Hmm.
And that's one of our main differentiators compared to so many other decentralized identity solutions. And then looking forward, now that we see like 3 or 4 providers come into the market, it's going to be just the scope, like what kind of credentials we provide. Like we're the only ones at the moment to provide open banking services in a decentralized manner.
Hmm.
We have very high hopes in this new product. And we're also the only one that is able to target like millions of users. Like we have 3.2 million users KYC'd. No other solution even comes close. Like we should probably be like the second or third biggest decentralized identity solution on the market at the
Just
moment.
out of curiosity, out of those 3.2 million, like what percentage opted for the ability to restore data via the third party?
It's not a general opt-in. It's an opt-in for every single service provider.
Like the service provider will define certain parameters, like whether they want to have that
Correct.
pseudonymous ability.
Correct. So the user themselves would have to choose for every single financial service provider. So you might opt in to be anonymous on, I don't know, like KyberSwap, and then you might choose to be non-anonymous on Ondo Finance or something like this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. Awesome. Alex, thank you so much. This is great for listeners who want to find out more about what you guys are doing, who want to stay up to date in the research that you guys put out, the documents that you guys have on the platform. What's the best way to stay in touch with you, to follow you, to reach out or find out more about zkMe?
It's probably on our socials. So follow us on X and at zkMe_. That's our main handle. And then if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, just come find me on LinkedIn. I think that's probably the easiest.
But it's not Alex, it's David Alexander Scheer.
Yeah, that's my legal name is David Alexander, but I usually just go by Alex. It's easier.
See, you tried to just like make it easier by going by Alex, but then you have this LinkedIn profile that just like throws everybody off. What? Maybe you should just like change it on LinkedIn.
I tried, but my LinkedIn account is like document verified.
Verified. That's the reason I can't verify my LinkedIn, because like my legal name is Isaac, but nobody calls me Isaac except on my passport. And so I like my identity is as Yitzy. Maybe you need to like offer LinkedIn to use ZK proofs to allow people to verify their identity without changing their nicknames.
Exactly. There should be some way to just go back from a verified account on LinkedIn. No, yeah.
Yes. No, I'm not joking. You should offer them to use zkMe.
We will. Like, we have a very ambitious growth strategy for next year, and
good. I hope to be a part of it.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Code. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and to tune in again next week for more fun and insightful conversation.